So I was on eBay looking for some electronic components, and I came across this LED module, and I've stuck it onto a battery pack which comes from Poundland, which is for recharging a phone. But when I found this LED cluster, which is 4 LEDs by 3, I thought, wow, they look quite powerful, so it'd be quite good to try and make an ad hoc torch out of one of these battery packs from Poundland and this LED cluster. And it actually reasonably good. But whilst I was on that site, I also found some of these LEDs, and I thought I'd buy some of those as well, because I like to make molds up to about £15 when I'm buying stuff from China or Hong Kong. And these actually produce a far brighter light. Now this is rated between, it says 3 to 5 volts, and I'm powering it from about 4 volts when this is fully charged. So it could be powered an extra volt, and maybe that make a big difference. But these LEDs just go straight across the 4 volts, the fully charged battery, and they provide an incredible power. When I light up the room when it's night time, in my room I've got 100-watt equivalent light bulbs. So I've got LED light bulbs which are 15 watts, and they're supposed to be equivalent to a 100-watt incandescent bulb. And if I turn the lights out and then turn this on, I would reckon, it's just an estimate, but I reckon this is maybe between maybe about 40-watt equivalent incandescent. But that's just an estimate, but it really does light up the room really well. So I'm going to make another one of these now and show you how the process of making them. Now I don't know what these LEDs are actually rated at, because it doesn't say in the actual eBay listing. So what I did was I had got this lithium ion battery. I just powered one of these bulbs up by sticking it in like the connector here, and I left that running for about an hour or so, maybe a bit more than an hour, just to see if it burns out easily. And they didn't burn out in the hour, and I've had these in here for a little while. I've sort of used them now and again, and sort of turned them off and on, and done stuff with them. And they seem to respect the 4 volts, so I've had this fully charged to 4 volts. They don't seem to mind the 4 volts that's across it. I wouldn't have it switched on and have it charging at the same time, because when it's charging the voltage probably goes up to more like 5 volts or something. And I haven't tried them across 5 volts, but I don't fancy even testing that. I'm quite happy to make sure it's turned off when I'm charging, and use it as a really bright light. I'll see what it's like outside in a really dark place as well, and see if I can demonstrate that. So these are the bits I'm going to use to make this this battery powered torch, which is really quite powerful. So this is from Poundland. It's a power bank. It contains an 18650 battery, a bit like that, and it contains, yeah, so this battery came out of one of these power packs. It's 1.2 amp hour battery. So I'll take this apart and modify it to become one of these torches. I've got the LEDs here, so I've got a line, so I'm making them in a line of 8 by 3, so that's about 24 LEDs. So I've got them here. These I bought on eBay, and they were supposed to be 100 pieces for £1, but actually they only sent 50 pieces, so they're about 2p each. So this is about 50p's worth of stuff, £1, and then a switch to be able to switch it on and off, which I can't remember how much these are, say 20p or something. So less than £2, but if you include the wire solder and stuff, just say it's about £2 to make one of these really high power lamps. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to take the back off of this power bank, and I just need a screwdriver to do this. Now you've got to be careful, because the lithium ion batteries, if you short them out, then they get very hot, and they can melt things quite easily. But there's 3 clips. There's one at the end up here, you just have to lever off, and then one in the middle, which I think I've done, and then one on the other end. Once you've levered those out, then you should just be able to lift the back off like that. Now, lucky enough, I can put this aside, so this is where all the danger is, and I can put that aside until the last thing that I need to do, and all the work really is done on this top bit. So one of the first things I need to do is a couple of little lips in here, there and there, and I need to take those off with either a knife or a rotary tool. I think I used a rotary tool in one of these battery packs, and I tried taking those lips off with a knife, After I've done that, then I need to mark out how I'm going to lay out the LEDs on this side. Then I'm going to need to drill a couple of very small, like 1mm holes for each leg, and then put the LEDs through and solder them on the back, trying to keep it as close to the top as possible, because inside here there's very little room. So I'm going to actually peel this foam pad off the top just to give me the extra room. It actually comes off really easy, just to give an extra bit of room in there, but there's literally no room in there, so you need to make all of the soldering parts to the LEDs as close to the lid as possible, which is why you need to take off these couple of lips. Okay, so this is the lid now, and I've used a knife just to cut off those lips. I've marked on this side where I want the LEDs to go. So it's slightly more than 2 centimeters across here. So about 1mm from each side. I've measured half a centimeter spacing across to get 3 across, and then half a centimeter from the end, then a centimeter to get 8 lots of lines down there. Now I've probably not marked them very square, but that's okay for this one. I don't mind. So I have to drill holes in now. So there's quite a few holes to drill and quite a few LEDs to put in. I'll just show hopefully doing one, and it may not go very well because I'm trying to do it whilst looking over the camera. What I tend to do this is I get the LED. Now I've marked this a bit unusually because on the last one that I did, you can see that this top row I've not done quite well, so I learned from that top row how I wanted to actually do it on the rest of them, so it should come out now like the rest of these. And I've done it so that I use the splay of the legs, and you've got to make sure that the leads are parallel, because you don't want them too far apart, to drill a hole each side that line. And then when I've put this one in, the inside leg goes on that line, and the inside leg then goes on that line of the outer LEDs. So this is very rough, but it does it for just getting things done quickly. I've got one of these hand drills, and these are these aren't too bad for doing this if you get it in the vise tightly. I'll be able to push down with it. Okay. So these, if you put a bit of pressure on the back of them, then they're reasonably quick to drill through. So that's one hole done. So it's just like a little hand drill. Saves me using a rotary tool or anything. So then I get the position of the other side. It doesn't take too much work to make the other hole. And then this can go through, and you've got to make sure that the cathode is always on the same side, because you've got to put them all in parallel, because they all go in parallel across the battery. So if I take that out of the way for a second, so actually I've drilled those a bit wide apart actually, but then you have to fold these down, and then you just solder them all in parallel down inside. But what I'll do is I'll do a bunch of them, maybe half of them, and then come back for an update. So I've drilled all the holes, placed all the LEDs in there, but I'm going to take the LEDs out again now. So I've got these pencil marks which I'm going to use some isopropyl alcohol to remove. I'll put the LEDs back in, making sure that they're all exactly the right way round, so I haven't got any inverse polarity, so that I don't have any which don't turn on. And when I start soldering them, I'll give an update to that. So I've put in place about half the LEDs and soldered them on the back. I'll try and put in place another LED. It'll be tricky on camera, but I'll do my best. I've kind of pre-formed it already to try and get it in the right kind of place. So you place it, make sure that it's the right way round, place it in the back, bend the legs over so that they're in line with the others. I'm using the legs to supply the current to the LEDs. and then just get I'm using a battery soldering iron, just get it up to temperature. It takes a few seconds. Okay, and then just solder the legs on each side. I'll make those flatter. You got to try and make them as flat as possible on the top, because there's not much room in there. But I'll continue doing the rest of these, and there's not much more to do after. I need to put a switch in and wire them up. So hopefully should be able to get it done fairly quickly. So now all the LEDs are in place. I've just got a few wires to solder on across these parallel lines to make all the parallel lines in parallel, and a couple of leads to solder along the edge to power up, because it's a cylindrical battery. If I can lay the leads along the edge and up to the power source up here, so that when I take the lid off, I've got a bit of spare wire to be able to move the lid away. And if I do the links up this end, there's a little bit of a gap there where where the wires can go in. So that's the best place to put them. And I can test after I've done that to make sure all the LEDs light up, and then finally look at putting the switch in. So inside the device, there's a battery and a charge control, boost control thing, and it's not secured by anything, it just lifts out. So I'm gonna use the positive terminal here to solder the positive wire on, and the negative terminal there to solder the negative wire. Now, because the battery is probably quite well charged, it's important not to let the leads sort of wave around too much. But what I'll do is I'll just touch this on the negative terminal, or probably on the top here, probably should light up the LEDs, and just make sure the LEDs are working okay, which they are. And so now I just have to be careful that that lead doesn't wave around too much, and put the switch in up this end of the top, which I've got like a little bit of space over the end. So for the switch, all I've done is drill 6 holes in there, and I'll put the switch through those holes, and then I'll bend the leads together, and I'll probably put the positive wire across the switch, and then when I press the switch, I can then switch the device on and off. So that's it done. I changed my mind. It's definitely best to do negative on the switch, because there's a big negative area here. Now it should be far enough away that it's not a problem, but if you put positive on there, you could get a short out, and that would not be good. It's also probably best to put some insulating tape across all the connections and everything. There should be enough gap that it shouldn't be a problem, but just in case, just put some insulation tape across there. So now when I switch the switch on and off, it turns on and off the LEDs, and I should be able to hopefully route these wires so that they don't get in the way when I close the lid, and that should hopefully go back together all okay. So there, actually that fits really, yep, that fits nicely. And so that's the device all done. That's a very bright light, so now I've got 2 of these, I can use them.